But Sigurd fell to digging him a pit. And whiles he was at that work, there came to him an old man with a long beard, and asked what he wrought there, and he told him. Then answered the old man and said, "Thou dost after sorry counsel. Rather dig thee many pits, and let the blood run therein, but sit thee down in one thereof, and so thrust the worm's heart through." And therewithal he vanished away. But Sigurd made the pits, even as it was shown to him. Now crept the worm down to his place of watering, and the earth shook all about him, and he snorted forth venom on all the way before him as he went. But Sigurd neither trembled nor was adread at the roaring of him. So, whenas the worm crept over the pits, Sigurd thrust his sword under his left shoulder, so that it sank in up to the hilts. Then up leaped Sigurd from the pit, and drew the sword back again unto him, and therewith was his arm all bloody, up to the very shoulder. Now when that mighty worm was ware that he had his death wound, then he lashed out head and tail, so that all things soever that were before him were broken to pieces. So, whenas Fafnir had his death wound, he asked, "Who art thou, and who is thy father, and what thy kin, that thou wert so hardy as to bear weapons against me?" Sigurd answered, "Unknown to men is my kin. I am called a noble beast. Neither father have I, nor mother, and all alone have I fared hither." Said Fafnir, "Whereas thou hast neither father nor mother, of what wonder wert thou born then? But now, though thou tellest me not thy name on this my death day, yet thou knowest verily that thou liest unto me." He answered, "Sigurd am I called, and my father was Sigmund." Says Fafnir, "Who egged thee on to this deed, and why wouldst thou be driven to it? Hadst thou never heard how that all folk were adread of me, and of the awe of my countenance? But an eager father thou hadst, O bright-eyed swain." Sigurd answered, "A hearty heart urged me on hereto, and a strong hand, and this sharp sword, which well thou knowest now stood me in stead in the doing of the deed. Seldom hath hardy eld a faint-heart youth." Fafnir said, "Well I wot that hadst thou waxed amid thy kin, thou mightest have good skill to slay folk in thine anger. But more of a marvel is it that thou, a bondsman taken in war, shouldst have the heart to set on me, for few among bondsmen have heart for the fight." Said Sigurd, "Wilt thou then cast it in my teeth that I am far away from my kin? Albeit I was a bondsman, yet was I never shackled. God wot thou hast found me free enow." Fafnir answered, "In angry wise dost thou take my speech. But hearken, for that same gold which I have owned shall be thy bane too." Quoth Sigurd, "Fain would we keep all our wealth till that day of days, yet shall each man die once for all." Said Fafnir, "Few things wilt thou do after my counsel, but take heed that thou shalt be drowned if thou farest unwarily over the sea. So bide thou rather on the dry land for the coming of the calm tide." Then said Sigurd, "Speak, Fafnir, and say, if thou art so exceeding wise, who are the Norns who rule the lot of all men's sons? Fafnir answers, Many there be, and wide apart, for some are of the kin of the Aesir, and some are of elven kin, and some there are who are daughters of Dvalen. Said Sigurd, How namest thou the holm, whereon Surt and the Aesir mix and mingle the water of the sword? Unshapen is that holm height, said Fafnir. And yet again he said, Regin, my brother, has brought about my end, and it gladdens my heart that thine too he bringeth about, for thus will things be according to his will. And once again he spake, A countenance of terror I bore up before all folk, after that I brooded over the heritage of my brother. And on every side did I spout out poison, so that none durst come anigh me, and of no weapon was I adread. Nor ever had I so many men before me, as that I deemed myself not stronger than all, for all men were sore afeard of me. Sigurd answered and said, Few may have victory by means of that same countenance of terror, for whoso comes amongst many shall one day find that no one man is by so far the mightiest of all. Then says Fafnir, Such counsel I give thee, that thou take thy horse and ride away at thy speediest, for oft times it falls out so that he who gets a death wound avenges himself none the less. Sigurd answered, Such as thy redes are, I will nowise do after them. Nay, I will ride now to thy lair, and take to me that great treasure of thy kin. Ride there then, said Fafnir, and thou shalt find gold enow to suffice thee for all thy life days. Yet shall that gold be thy bane, and the bane of every one soever who owns it. Then up stood Sigurd and said, Home would I ride, and lose all that wealth, if I deemed that by the losing thereof I should never die. But every brave and true man will fain have his hand on wealth till that last day. But thou, Fafnir, wallow in the death pain till death and hell have thee. And therewithal Fafnir died. Chapter 19. Thereafter came Regin to Sigurd, and said, Hail, lord and master! A noble victory hast thou won in the slaying of Fafnir, whereas none durst heretofore abide in the path of him, and now shall this deed of fame be of renown while the world stands fast. Then stood Regin staring on the earth a long while, and presently thereafter spake from heavy mood, Mine own brother hast thou slain, and scarce may I be called sackless of the deed. Then Sigurd took his sword Gram, and dried it on the earth, and spake to Regin, Afar thou farest when I wrought this deed, and tried this sharp sword with the hand and the might of me. With all the might and main of a dragon must I strive, while thou wert laid alow in the heather bush, wotting not if it were earth or heaven. Said Regin, Long might this worm have lain in his lair, if the sharp sword I forged with my hand had not been good at need to thee. Had that not been, neither thou nor any man would have prevailed against him, as at this time. Sigurd answers, Whenas men meet foes in fight, better is stout heart than sharp sword. Then said Regin, exceeding heavily, Thou hast slain my brother, and scarce may I be sackless of the deed.